Hey guys, my name's Miranda and today I'm here to discuss the first episode of Dimension 20's new season, Mentopolis. It takes me so long to remember how to say it because every time I look at it, I want to say Mentopolis, which is not correct. It's Mentopolis, like Metropolis. It's not Metropolis as much as I, again, want to say that it is. It's Mentopolis. So ever since they showed the trailer for this season, I have been very, very excited. I think the idea and the concept behind it of like taking place in a person's mind is so intriguing, so different, and so cool, but then also studying it in like the time period of like a noir 1920s dark, gritty, mysterious kind of city where things are a bit grimy and gritty and there's a murder happening and these like dark undertone mysteries is also really, really interesting. So like those two concepts on their own, phenomenal. Combine them, even more amazing. So I was super looking forward to it, and like I said, the last season, Dungeons and Drag Queens, I feel like was so high, set the bar so high that it would be a hard season to follow up, but I feel like this has great potential to be as good as that just because of what the concept is and also the players, the characters. Like I loved not only the main characters that we got to meet, but the side characters, all the puns. I mean, I just love them so much. I think they're very punny and I'm just excited to explore more. So yeah, the main thing about this was it opened with like a murder that we saw. So, and it was even like with the sound effects of the like bang bang and everything. And I do have to say that like the art department, I feel like we're always talking about how good they are. Amazing. Like literally tops their own bar every single time. First of all, I can't even believe how cool the setup is of like how the ball bearings are connected to their boxes and Brennan can like put them in one by one and the whole thing lights up like a synaptic switchboard, which is exactly like what the mind is with the synapse firing and all that. So I just think it's so, so cool. It's a modified version, I think they said, of Kids on Bikes, which is, I think, similar to Kids on Brooms, which is what they use for Misfits and Magic. So that makes me happy because it means I can follow along, right? Sometimes when they're doing a new thing, I'm like, okay, I gotta relearn this, but this one is a pretty good one to follow along to, and I do want to try and play it because I like the whole idea of like successes and failures and like succeeding by more than 5 or failing by more than 5, like results in something catastrophically bad or good happening. Can a catastrophic be good, actually? Catastrophically good? Is catastrophic just like the size of something? I think, right? Yeah. Anyway, I'm excited for that, and I also really like the idea that now the ball bearings are like their tokens, like their advisor. No, I can't say the word. There's a lot of words I can't say, if you can realize that. But I like that those are like their tokens that they can use to try and up things, because I think this is going to be a very important game, much like Misfits and Magic, where you're going to want to pass certain things or else you're going to be in a lot of trouble. I'm curious with like seeing more of how it develops between like the mind and the body of the big guy, like how much of the big guy controls, like if the big guy like all of a sudden just feels something, does that just like make a thing exist? But then it's like if in the city someone gets murdered, does that mean like the thing just disappears in his mind? Like I'm curious more to learn about how that whole like symbiotic relationship works. However, I've got to point this out because everyone's been talking about it and I'm like, oh my gosh, Brennan, you did it again. The whole thing with like the 1920s, the era that I didn't even realize, like seeing the trailer, is it's like prohibition, right? So it's like there's a big crackdown on crime and on alcohol, but in this case the like illegal substance is like literally happiness or like things that like make you happy. So Elias Hodge is the big guy and he is focused on getting like some promotion at work or something like that. He's kind of young. I think he's like a little bit out of college and he's really just like trying to work up the ranks of his job and feels like he's not getting seen or promoted. And the big case that like the group seems to be working on right now is some like file that potentially has like the ability to change his life and like get the bosses to finally recognize him is on the desk. So I don't know if that's like good or bad, if they're gonna try and get that back or something like that, but that's their thing, and that's kind of our dude right now, is he's just this hardworking guy who doesn't seem to have any fun, literally, because all the alcohol and the illegal substances in this world are pleasure things. Like he's not really a pleasurable guy. He doesn't have oxytocin, which I love. The oxytocin was like a little cup of hot chocolate with hearts coming out of it. That's really cute. Serotonin, like anything really that would just make you happy and like not stressed and working all the time is outlawed, and that's what the speakeasy sells. So not only that, but the time period of the 1920s with the Great Depression, Elias is depressed. And I think that's really interesting to see because it affects every part of the mind. And I also like it because I'm wondering now with like, we met the mayor, we met the cops, we met some like really seedy, I think it was a DA, right? That just seemed like, you know, these people, if it were like a movie set in this time, would probably be corrupt. I'm kind of wondering if they're going to come out more and more that like they are, you know, corrupt and that they're trying to keep him depressed and sad and just focused on work and not able to enjoy or appreciate life. And I feel like we kind of saw that with Madame Loathing, how she had that children's home for wayward interests or something like that, of like how anything that's not dedicated to the job and to getting him up in this world and just feeling like he's doing like the best at his job is just pushed to the side and there's no room for anything like that. So I feel like the whole system is corrupt, which is a very interesting concept because it's like when your brain is corrupt and like the people running it want you to stay sad and alone and depressed and not have pleasure, like I just think that's a really cool concept because like literally that's what depression is. Like it sinks into your brain and like takes over all of it, you know? So I thought that was a really cool concept, and when someone on Tumblr pointed that out, that like it's literally the Great Depression, I was like, Brennan, you've done it again, man! So that's what I'm really curious to see too, of like how much of this corruption has like really gone to the higher ups, because they always talk about like the big wigs. They talk about like the big guy and his bosses, but then they also talk about the big wigs of like the city, I presume. And like I said, we did meet the mayor, and he was kind of more like, everything's fine, like everything that might seem weird, all on track. Like, of course, we have this all under plan. And then that DA pulling up to talk to the fix and being like, this is priority number one, and it being a child, kind of has you worried, especially because we met Conrad, who I love, and Conrad's whole thing with their adorable dog is that they just want people to pay attention to the things that matter, not the things that like they tell you are like what you should be listening to. Like I just love the idea that like the way they're getting their message out to us, he sells the newspaper, but he puts it in order of what he thinks is most important. Like, what a sweet, sweet little guy. And it's always so amusing to me when it's like, all right, we gotta get this kid, right? Like, it's like, number one, big bad, and it's just like a small little child. It's so cute. Like, come on. They put a sign up at the speakeasy being like, please reconsider every night with removable tapes to not, like, disrupt the flow of anything. Like, I just think that's so cute. And I love that, like, Dan, that's his mortal enemy, is a child. All the characters, I love that they're, like, somewhat interacting by the end of it, but, like, they're just so interesting and they riff off each other so well, the players, which makes me so happy. Like, I love all of them, and they're all so different than what I originally thought they would be. Like, Hunch is such an interesting detective because he's good, but he's like that rough and tumble kind of, like, not that polished, neat, like, my office is so great and all that. Like, he's like that seedy kind of one that can go in places and find things. Mentopolis is so cool because she's from like an upper, like, ritzy family, but I love the idea that like no one's taken the time to even really notice or care about what Conrad's been doing, and she did, and immediately wanted to know like what this meant and why this was happening. I do wonder if that person that was like, oh, you put the newspapers in the wrong way, like is gonna come back as anything, because obviously like Conrad is on the upper people's in power radar for some reason, so something's happening with that. But I do feel like there could be something where it's just like a tale or something that we don't even realize is happening in the background, or like someone like not necessarily betrayal level of like Crown of Candy, yes, but like definitely I feel like someone that like you thought you could trust maybe, and like it ends up being that you didn't, or just like someone you thought was in the background and then they come up and it turns out they're way more important than you thought. So I'm keeping my eye on that, definitely. Like I even thought when they brought out Mr. Lance and they didn't say his first name, and even Trap was like waiting like what's gonna be his first name. I think that could be like imbalance or something, because it's like you have a chemical imbalance, right? So I feel like that kind of also lean towards the credit of like the people in charge are not good. So we'll have to see more of that. But then yeah, I love them. I also was really hoping like after we got introduced to the first two and we learned about the whole like Daily Observer that they have. I was like, I really hope we have like a reporter character, and then Danielle is like, I got you, and I was like, thank you so much. I love the tension too, literally between her and Trap's character, because attention and curiosity, Brennan said, are very like similar to each other, always kind of like one could get there first. So I like as soon as he walks in, he's like, oh gosh, why are you everywhere I want to be? And like, am I sensing love potentially? I don't know if like actually romance is in the cards for any of these people, or if like they literally don't reproduce. It's just like a thought that the big guy has, and then all of a sudden there's a new thing going around. So we'll have to see with that. But yeah, I love that because it gives me like ex vibes so bad, of like two exes that are just like, oh, like so annoyed by each other. She also knows Imelda, which is really interesting. They're cousins, so she's way more of like a nepo baby than she seems to act. Like she wants to like make a change and have her big break or something like that, but at the same time, a nepo baby, because she's got like this key that can talk to the big guy directly that only like the Importance family have. So I'm curious to see more of that develop. And then also the Fix, amazing. I love him so much. He's so different than what I thought, but also like just perfect. Like I thought it was gonna be more like a guy who got like distracted or like went off on tangents because like he was hyper fixated on something. But for it to be like the opposite of like he gets rid of distractions by like showing like how exactly things need to run and like kind of throwing you off balance with his facts and stuff like that, I think is so cute. And then he was also scary when he was like, so you can walk away or we can see how long I can last before I punch you really, really hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, like he was like the stuff he was saying, I was like, oh my gosh, to the intrusive thought was, that whole scene was amazing. Like I was like, okay, you sold me completely that he's the muscle and he's the fix, because like he's scary. But then also seeing him like interact with the little kids who were the wayward interest, like the train kid and the magic girl and all that, was really sweet, and I think added a nice layer to his character. And I was like, adopt them all. Like I know like Madame Loathing was like, you can't adopt them all, like don't give them false hope, but I was like, they're adorable. They're so cute. Like the little reptile guy with the lisp that was like, I love all the reptiles. I was like, these guys are so cute. And it just like, it was just such a cute little addition to his character that I'm hoping to see more of. So that was really great. The proprietor of the speakeasy, Mr. F.U., you know how it's spelled. I love when Conrad was like, I'm sorry, mister, and like couldn't say his name because like they're so like prim and proper, or you know, like they're kids. So they're like, I'm not gonna, you know, it was really cute. But they're crazy and I love them. I love the whole club scene. It was so funny. Like the bodyguard, how crazy he is because he just like loves other people's displeasure. He gets pleasure from that, was so funny. And then also just like the characterization of like the bartender who was just like a giant snot and was sneezing. Like I just love all the imagination and the creativity you can have with this. Like not even pun wise but character design wise too, of all the different parts of the brain and like what they serve. Like even seeing the city split into like the occipital lobe, the temporal lobe, like all that was really, really cool and like satisfied my nerd brain, I feel like. So I'm just excited to dive in more to it and see what we have in store. I do kind of feel like walking away from this, it felt more like an elevated Mice and Murder for me. I feel like with that one, just because of like them not being able to be there all together in person, there was just kind of some distance from it that I really couldn't dive fully into the mystery and enjoy it. Whereas this one, from the hook, I'm in it with like the murder and everything like that. I'm trying to figure out why this guy, who Attention has already clocked, was just a guy. Like she can tell when someone's like gotten up into something. He was at the red line district, but it seems like a lot of people are. So now that they've all converged onto one, I kind of want to see what more is going to come out of this. I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure exactly what the plan is of like seeing that thing of like, oh, there's the file now that's really could like make or break him, and that file's on the boss's desk. Like I'm not sure what exactly they're going to do with that information, but I definitely feel like there's some corruption in this city, and I'm excited to see it weeded out and to see what more cast of characters we will meet along the way. So yeah, if you have seen this first episode, let me know what you thought of the premiere down below in the comments, the characters, the story, your predictions for where it's going and everything like that. Thank you guys all so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!